Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for being patient with us during the delay we had today. So we should have the closed captioning set up now. You should be able to enable that from your screen. So this webinar is sponsored by PVA Government Relations. My name is Heather Ansley, and I'm the Associate Executive Director of Government Relations for PVA. And today's topic is on Social Security disability programs and veterans. Our speakers are Susan Prokop with PVA's Advocacy Program and ML Jordan Jr. So just some reminders, today's webinar will be recorded and available for viewing later on pva.org. We will also make sure that if you register today, you're able to receive a copy of the presentation. As I mentioned, we do have closed captioning has been enabled. So just click the CC button in your meeting controls if you need that function to be able to follow along today. And then if you have questions as we go through the webinar, we'll be taking all questions at the end, and we'll need you to submit those via the Q&A box. We also do have the chat box enabled, but if you could use the Q&A box to give us any questions, we would certainly appreciate that. So now I am going to turn it over to Susan Prokop, who is PVA's National Advocacy Director, to get us started this afternoon. Susan?
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our webinar on Social Security disability insurance and veterans. As Heather said, I'm Susan Prokop with the PVA Advocacy Program, and we are going to be joined today by Mr. ML Jordan Jr., who is with the Social Security Administration, serving as an official with the External Affairs team in their Office of Communications and Office of Strategic and Digital Communications in the national headquarters in Baltimore. He's been in that position since October of 2018. And in that role, he's responsible for leading a team of national public affairs specialists who conduct educational outreach on Social Security Administration initiatives and promote Social Security communication messages through an assortment of communication platforms. Prior to joining Social Security in 2013, he served 26 years, almost 26 years, in the United States Air Force. And today, so this slide shows you a little bit about what we're going to be talking about today. ML Jordan is going to go over just some basic background on Social Security disability insurance and a bit of a comparison between VA disability benefits and Social Security disability insurance benefits. Then he's going to talk some about Social Security's Wounded Warrior, VA permanent and total claims process, and how one goes about applying for SSDI. And then we're going to wrap up, maybe talk a little bit about just briefly some work incentives issues and things to consider, and then we'll join into the Q&A process. So let's get this started, and I'm going to turn the podium over to ML and for a discussion of SSDI and veterans. It's all yours.
All right, thank you, Susan, and thank you for that warm introduction, and thank you again for the opportunity to present some information to my fellow veterans here. I hope everybody out there is doing well and are staying safe during these unprecedented times. So what I want to do today is just kind of talk about what is SSDI, and then we'll get into how you qualify for it a little bit. And as you can see on the slide, about 800,000 of our fellow veterans are receiving SSDI right now. So SSDI was added to the Social Security Act of 1935 in 1956. So around April 1st of 1956, actually. So we're actually coming up on the 65th anniversary of SSDI here in about a month and a half or so. So that's exciting. So SSDI is a benefit that's paid to to people who work in a job that is covered by Social Security, and then who have enough credits or quarters, as it may be known, to qualify for the benefit. And I'll get into those details in a bit. So first, you must have a job that's covered by Social Security. And then you must have a medical condition that meets Social Security's definition of disability. And so I'll get into that a bit later as we go into the non-medical criteria for SSDI benefits. SSDI is a monthly benefit paid to people who are unable to work for a year or more because of a disability. These benefits usually continue until you're able to work again on a regular basis. We also have something called work incentives for people who want to try to get back to work while they're collecting SSDI, and you still continue to get your benefits and your health coverage until you make a full transition back to work if your disability allows so. Also, you should know if you're receiving SSDI benefits when you reach your full retirement age, your disability benefits will automatically convert to retirement benefits, but the amount will remain the same. So how much work do you need, or how are benefits earned based on your work record? Well, in addition to meeting our definition of disability, you must also have worked long enough and recently enough under the Social Security's rules to qualify for disability benefits. So as I mentioned earlier, we have something called work credits. And these credits are based on your yearly wages or self-employment income. And you can earn up to 4 credits a year. And in that respect, you are considered fully insured by Social Security when you reach 40 credits or 10 years of work. So keep that part in mind. So the amount that a credit will cost you each year varies from year to year. So for example, in 2021, a credit costs you $1,470. So when you've earned $5,880, you have earned your 4 credits for the year. So some people may earn that in a month, 2 months, 3 months, but we won't count those right at that time. You'll get credit for those periodically throughout the year. So to get covered for SSDI, the number of credits you need to qualify for the disability benefits depends on your age, on the age when you become disabled. Generally, you need 40 credits, 20 of which must be earned in the last 10 years. So what that's saying in layman's terms is you must have worked 5 out of the last 10 years to qualify for SSDI before you become disabled. And if you're younger, can we go back, please?
Okay.
And if you're younger, then we have criteria to help you qualify for those benefits. So that's kind of an overview of it and how that happens. Normally when you apply for SSDI, like I said earlier, it's a cash benefit. Most conditions you are required to wait about 5 months before you start collecting benefits with SSDI. There are some conditions out there that you are able to get money right away, such as you have ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease. That's one where the 5-month waiting period is waived. That came into law recently. And we also have some conditions on our compassionate allowance list that you can find on our website that also has some conditions that may waive that 5-month waiting period. And generally, once you start collecting SSDI from Social Security, you become eligible for Medicare after about 2 years. Next slide, please. I'm sorry. Here I want to say, before we move on, to figure out dependent benefits related to your earnings record, I'm encouraging everybody to open up a My Social Security account at www.ssa.gov/my account, where you can then view your earnings statement. It will tell you how much you could potentially expect in disability benefits. It can tell you what you can expect for your dependents and all those things. So please open up one of those accounts today. All right, next slide, please. Okay, so we kind of talked about the 40 quarters of Social Security coverage already. So VA does not necessarily have that requirement. It has, you have to receive or have an injury or illness, based on your military service. And they also go to range, the degrees of disability range from 0 to 100. With Social Security, we look at your ability to work with your disabilities, and also something we call substantial gainful employment, where if you're earning in 2021, if you're earning more than $1,310, you're not considered disabled. If you're earning that or less, then you potentially qualify for disability benefits for Social Security. Again, we define disability as something, an illness or an injury that's expected to last at least 12 months or result in death and prevents you from working. And then you also have to include the substantial gainful activity in that calculation. And then we look at your most recent work test, and that's involving if you're able to perform certain types of work related to your field, and also looking at have you worked 5 of those last 10 years. So those are some of the criteria. Again, we have something called a compassionate allowance listing, which gives you once the disability is diagnosed, you automatically get covered. Some of those conditions could mean receiving benefits right away. We also have something called presumptive disabilities. And I would encourage you to work with your local office to talk about those different conditions to see if you qualify. Okay, next slide. Okay, so some of the common misconceptions about SSDI and VA benefits. One misconception is that veterans can't receive both VA benefits and SSDI. Well, that's not true. Both programs have different sets of criteria for their benefits, and I would encourage you to apply for both. The main thing I think that may confuse the situation is that we have another program that we manage called SSI, and sometimes because of the amount of the veterans benefits that you would receive, it makes you ineligible for SSDI. SSI, because SSI is a resource and needs-based program. So with SSDI, you don't have some of the limitations that you have with SSI. So you can certainly receive both benefits. It's just a matter of meeting the criteria for both organizations. And those things are very, very different. Again, VA looks at your service records and they have a little more flexibility. SSDI is based on your ability to work within a 12-month time period based on when your disability started. So it's very, very different criteria for the benefits, but you can collect both. Let's see. Rejection for VA comp means ineligible for SSDI and vice versa. Again, that's not true. One of the good things about SSDI is that characterization of service doesn't matter to us because you paid into the system through your FICA taxes to be able to collect benefits. But again, both organizations have very different definitions of what disabled means. And so because you get rejected for the VA, or if you get rejected from Social Security, doesn't mean you're not eligible for the other person's benefits. So I would encourage you to apply in both cases. You can't work while on disability benefits. Again, that's not true. Social Security has a number of programs that allow you to work while you're getting benefits. And also, you can also work as long as you don't exceed the amount of significant gainful activity, which is in 2021, $1,310. So what we do encourage you to do is work through our Ticket to Work program so that you are reporting your earnings you are working with our employment networks and things like that to get yourself back to a self-sustainable path. And then you're able to then be eligible to get back on benefits in an expedited fashion, just in case things don't work out once you transition back to full-time work. You have to work it through those programs in order to do that. And we'll get into that a little bit more later. Okay. Okay, SSI versus the VA pension. So again, as I mentioned earlier, SSI is a means tested program or a needs-based program, and it covers people who are low income, aged or elderly people, people who are blind and disabled individuals between the ages of 18 and 65. It does have asset and income limits. For example, an individual may not have more than $1,000 in assets available to them at one time. And then the income limit potentially is the significant gainful activity amount, which I mentioned earlier was $1,310. And then there are also resource limits associated with that. For example, let's say you happen to win the lottery for $500. Technically, you're supposed to report that, and your benefit would get reduced the next month by that amount because you have that extra resource, as an example. And then we do count VA benefits as income in our supplemental security income program. The VA pension, again, is for low income individuals or non-service connected disabled veterans. They too have asset limitations and earnings limitations. It potentially a bit more generous than SSDI. I believe that the 2021 amount for SSI benefits is around $840 some odd dollars, which VA benefits may be a little more generous. And also the VA does not count SSI, food stamps, or other assistance towards their income limit. So that's kind of the difference there. But again, if you're getting that pension, I would still say try to apply for SSI to see if you're eligible. And a lot of times SSI benefits are gateway benefits or a gateway to other benefits like housing support, food stamps, and other things. And also it gets you on Medicare after that 2 year, it gets you on Medicare right away also. All right. Okay, so I'm sure you guys have heard about our Wounded Warrior program and our VA 100% permanent and total disability claims process. So those are actually two separate programs. And so I want to tackle the Wounded Warrior program first. So this program was established to help active duty members who were injured on or after 9/11/2001. And how it works is that if a military member became injured during that time, at that time or after, if it impacted their ability to perform their primary function, they could qualify for disability benefits. So we don't necessarily look at the fact that someone is still getting paid while they're in the service. We look at the fact that they are not able to perform their primary job as one of the factors in determining the disability. And so once that is determined, they may be eligible for disability benefits. For example, you're a soldier, you got hurt, you can't perform your primary function, but you're in rehab, or you're not doing your primary duty. So we look at your ability to do your job, not necessarily the fact that you're still getting paid. So at that point, if you apply, you may become eligible for disability benefits from Social Security. And also it can also, once you identify yourself as a Wounded Warrior, it also expedites the processing of your application. So with the VA permanent, 100% permanent and total disability claims process. That's a process that we ask people to identify if they are 100% permanent and totally disabled rated by the VA. Then it acts as a flag in our system once you've identified yourself in that manner to expedite your disability claim through our process. And that's how that works. Again, fortunately, Social Security and VA has an agreement where we can exchange medical records back and forth. So let's say you applied for Social Security disability benefits first, and then you go to the VA. Well, with your consent, we can actually send our records to the VA and vice versa. If you went to the VA first, with your consent, we could also get those records from the VA to examine them to see if you meet our disability criteria. That's how that works in a nutshell. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so applying for SSDI. So you can, well, not now because of the pandemic, but in the past, you'll be able to go into an office and start applying. You can call our national 1-800 number and begin the process. But since the pandemic has taken place, we have updated our field office locator, where you can go to the site listed here, the link listed here, click on it, type in your zip code, and you'll get the nearest field office to your zip code. And it has a 1-800 number for your local office, field office, for your local field office. And you can call that number and get the disability application process started. Recommend that you have your DD-214 ready. Any other forms of identification that you may have. If you have your VA medical records in a hard copy form, share copies of those with Social Security. Any other medical documentation you may have. We may ask you to sign a release to contact your different medical sources. So please have the names and the addresses and the contact information for the different doctors you may have visited in the past related to your condition. And we can gather all that information, and that would help speed things along in the disability process. Also remember, if opportunity presents itself, to provide that electronic okay for Social Security to exchange your records or get records from the VA if that's where your records are being held. You can also walk into the office, well, not now, but call the offices to get that going. And the other thing I want to emphasize here is that if you think you're eligible to apply, let us tell you no. Certainly, it doesn't hurt to apply. Certainly, it doesn't hurt to check to make sure you're eligible. And when you apply, even if you get denied, it gives you the opportunity to at least appeal the decision through our appeals process, which can then potentially yield benefits for you as an individual. So please, please apply if you think you are eligible. Let us tell you no. And next slide, please. Okay, so here's some different links that you can find out more information about Social Security disability benefits and how these things relate to veterans. The one in the middle, the ssa.gov/people/veterans, that contains a wide array of information for veterans to look at. We built that page especially for veterans. It'll describe the 100% P&T program that I just described, along with the Wounded Warrior process that I just described. And then we have a general disability site listed last there that will give you information about our disability program. Other things you should know, I mentioned earlier that we have work incentives. So we have something called our Ticket to Work program, and they have for SSDI recipients, we have something called a trial work period, which will allow you to work for 9 months, making practically any amount of money. And as long as you're reporting your earnings, you will continue to receive your full SSDI benefits and health benefits related to the program. And then, and as long as your work activity is reporting, you still have your disabling condition, you will continue to stay on SSDI for at least 9 months as you transition back to full-time work. And again, we have something called expedited reinstatement for SSDI and SSI recipients who are attempting to go back to work and get off of benefits. And if your disabling condition causes you not to work anymore, or something related to it, you can request to have your benefits reinstated without having to complete a new application. And then while we are working to determine to reinstate your benefits, you are eligible to receive temporary benefits for up to 6 months while that process is going through. And so again, I would encourage every veteran to apply for benefits if they believe they're eligible. Again, let us tell you no. I hope some of this information was helpful for you. And I will kick it back to Susan at this point. Thank you all.
Okay, well, thank you, ML, for a very good overview of veterans and Social Security disability benefits. The slide you see here is our prompting for people to submit their questions. I will just also note it has my contact information for any questions anyone may have in follow-up today, as well as some links to our Disability Rights and Advocacy webpage, which has a variety of other resources pertaining to Social Security, as well as a number of other issues that PVA follows in the disability space. It's quite informative, and I'm sure you'll learn a lot from it on a whole host of issues. So encourage you to check out that webpage, and also want to draw your attention to a webinar that we produced last year on Social Security disability insurance and work incentives specifically. It's a video link there on this page. I will draw your attention to the fact that PVA is an employment network under the Social Security Administration's Ticket to Work program. And you can learn about Social Security's work incentives by going to choosework.ssa.gov and find out about the array of work incentives that ML was referring to: the trial work period, extended period of eligibility, impairment related work expenses, expedited reinstatement, and a whole host of other programs Social Security offers to support people in attempting to go back to work. Also, do bear in mind that PVA's Veterans Career Program is there to help veterans with disabilities, veterans and their caregivers, if they would like to explore a return to work or going into the workforce. You can go on our website and search for Veterans Career Program there and get connected up with a career counselor through that portal. So I'm going to switch over to our moderator now, Heather, who is going to read off some of your questions, and we will try to answer them as best we can. So what have we got, Heather?
Well, thank you, Susan. And as a reminder, please use the Q&A box to submit any questions that you have today for our panelists. The first question we have is, an individual is asking about SSDI and what would happen with a return to work. So the question is, if I earned $1,400 a month on SSDI, but then I left benefits, went back to work for 3 years, 5 years, some lengthy period of time, and then I were to go back on SSDI, would the monthly benefit change? Would it go up or down based on having now been in the workforce an additional period?
I can answer that question. Interestingly enough, if you do return to work, you've been receiving your benefit all this time, and then you decide to get back in the workforce, Social Security recalculates your benefits so that you will get a little bump up because you've been paying, because once you go back to work and you're paying payroll taxes, you're continuing to amplify your work record. And so if you did need to go back to benefits, or if you retired eventually, your benefit will have been increased because of the fact you were continuing to pay payroll taxes. So it's not a bad deal if you are able to return to work to try it, because also there is that protective 60-month window within which, if your condition deteriorates or your illness relapses, you can use the expedited reentry process to go back on benefits.
And another piece to keep in mind, Susan, is that when it comes to retirement benefits, we calculate your benefits based on your 35 highest years of earnings. And if you
it's 3 years, isn't it? 3
the
years?
highest 35 years earning for retirement benefits.
Okay, got it.
Yes, ma'am. And so the more earnings years that you have, or the more higher earning years that you have, the better your retirement benefits will be, which also impact your other benefits because of the amount that you paid in over time and things like that, and your salary. So it's important to obviously try to work as much as you can, because unfortunately, let's say you work for 25 years as an example, we would have to put 0 for some of those years, which could potentially lower your benefit. So just keep that part in mind.
Well, great. Well, thank you for that, those responses. So our next question relates to the Medicare benefit that comes along with SSDI. So the individual is asking if they're under the age of 65 and approved for SSDI and then become eligible for Medicare, do they have to use Medicare instead of using the VA healthcare benefits that they may have?
I'll jump in. No, you do not. You're not barred from using your VA healthcare benefits. If you're a veteran with a catastrophic disability, if you're service connected, obviously you're a category 1. And if you're a veteran with a non-service connected catastrophic disability, I think you're a category 4, I believe. So you've got access to the VA healthcare system no matter what. But you still, once you've qualified for SSDI and gone through the waiting period, you'll also have access to Medicare.
Thank you, Susan. And while we're talking those VA benefits, we had a question about, could you just give us a brief overview of the differences between VA pension and VA disability compensation?
Oh, sure. So basically, I mean, VA disability compensation, service-connected disability benefits based on that tiered rating system from 0% to 100% plus in 10% increments. That brings with it a whole host of benefits for service-connected disabled veterans. The VA pension program is a means-tested program. I like to analogize it to the supplemental security income program because it's for low-income, disabled, or elderly veterans who have served in a period of war. And that's an important distinction, because from 1975 to 1990, we were not in a period of war. And if a veteran falls on hard times who served during that period, that may preclude them from having access to pension. But in any event, VA pension is for low-income, disabled, elderly veterans with non-service connected disabilities, and it is means tested. It has its own set of assets and earnings limits, does come with some dependent benefits as well. And if you want to learn about VA pension or service-connected compensation, PVA has a host of wonderful veteran service officers just waiting to tell you all about those opportunities, which you can find on the PVA website.
Well, thank you, Susan. So this next question is about continuing disability reviews. So there's a question whether or not they are still doing the continuing disability reviews even after somebody has been on SSA, basically SSDI, for a number of years, because of the impact that has, particularly on veterans who are rated with PTSD, as they think their SSA benefits, their Social Security disability benefits are going to end. So is there anything you can tell us about the continuing disability reviews?
ML, you want to tackle that?
Well, so we suspended the CDRs at the beginning of the pandemic. And I believe we're starting to ramp those back up. Generally, you'll get reached out to, and it's critical that you actually go through the process, because by not answering, you could potentially get suspended for not answering. And so it's critical you go through the process and just provide the necessary documentation that's needed for those reviews. I know we have set time periods to review different types of conditions. I'm just not familiar with all of those to address the person's situation specifically. What I would say, again, go to our field office locator, and one of our claims reps can give you a very, very detailed answer about your specific situation.
And if I may add, there are some other organizations available to help Social Security claimants and beneficiaries with questions about continuing disability reviews. There are the 57 protection and advocacy programs that operate throughout the United States, and they are represented by the National Disability Rights Network. You can find out about your own P&A, as they're called, at ndrn.org. And there are some other organizations, if you care to reach out to PVA, that we can supply you with their contact information if you'd like to also find some third-party assistance with your benefits.
Well, great. Thank you both for that response. So our next question is about an individual. Does having retirement assets, like maybe IRAs or 401ks, impact your ability to qualify for SSDI?
Not necessarily. Again, SSDI is not limited by your resources. It's more about your ability to work. Have you worked within that 5 to last 10 years? If you're over age 31, things like that. So, and then also you also have to consider, will you become eligible for retirement benefits at that point? Which would then, if you are not at the time, you know they will convert when you become at your full retirement age. And so you want to make sure that you are checking the amount that you could potentially receive in retirement versus SSDI, because if your SSDI benefits convert to retirement benefits, then you are going to get that same amount. And if you do a higher retirement benefit, so you may want to just look out for that and do that calculation. And again, I would encourage you to call your local Social Security office and talk to them about your specific situation, and they can advise you on how to do that. Additionally, again, I would recommend opening up creating yourself a My Social Security account. And we have something called a retirement estimator that you can use your personal records for. You can type in different dates and scenarios for retirement to figure out what your benefits will be based on your earnings record at the time. So if you're still working, it'll have their latest earnings in there from 2020. You can get a good idea of what it will be. And if you wait till the end of this year, you can see what your earnings records look like for 2021 and do that. And so let's say you're age 62 and some change, you can look at it from that point on, or I want to retire at age 65 or age 67 or 67 and 5 months or 67 and 2 months. So you can run a lot of different scenarios to calculate that out. But again, in general, there are not necessarily any resource limits with SSDI as they are with SSI.
Great. We have an individual who's been receiving benefits from Social Security for over 25 years, and they're asking, how do you know if you're receiving SSI versus SSDI? Is there a way to know which of those benefits you're receiving?
So again, the amount of SSI like for this year is roughly like $740, I believe. Generally, people who are getting SSDI receive a lot more than that. I think the average benefit for SSDI is like $1,200 a month, if I remember correctly. So that could be a way, but I'm not aware personally anywhere where it says whether the check says SSDI versus SSI. I'm not aware of any distinction, but I do know the amounts are certainly different, and you have a limit on what you get on SSDI, and a lot more restrictions.
Great, thank you. Another question we have is, so someone is receiving about $2,000 in VA benefits, and they were told that they could not also receive SSDI because that would deduct from the individual's VA benefits. So they're wanting to know if that's true.
Okay, unfortunately, I'm not sure how the VA compensation program works to be able to answer that question.
Can I try?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So if you said, Heather, someone's getting roughly $2,000 in VA benefits. Is that right? Okay.
Correct.
If it's service-connected compensation, that should not impact risk. And if they're not working, okay. If they're not working and they're receiving service-connected compensation and they qualify for SSDI, that should not impact their ability to receive SSDI. If that VA benefit is a pension benefit, SSDI might have an impact on that VA pension benefit because pension is a means-tested program.
All right, thank you, Susan. The next question is, if the VA has all your medical records, can you just sign the consent form for Social Security to get those records instead of trying to get them yourself?
Well, yes, that's how we hope it works. So when you're applying for Social Security, let the person know that you are either receiving care at the VA or have received treatment or have been evaluated for VA disability benefits or VA compensation benefit, disability compensation. And there should be a form or something that you sign or a box that gives us consent to then use our data exchange agreement with the VA to get electronic access to your records.
Okay. If you're applying for a Social Security disability, does it have the ability to look back retroactively to see how long it's been since you've been unable to work, or is it just from that moment forward?
Heather, can you send that question to me and I'll get an answer back to you guys?
Certainly, we'd be happy to do that.
Yeah, if
Thank you.
I
The
would
next,
just say, generally speaking, I think there is what they call a recency of work test. So I'll defer to the information that ML is able to procure, but it's my understanding that Social Security does look at, are you still working? If you're not still working, have you worked within a certain period of time? But
Well, that's that 5 out of the last 10 years criteria, 20 credits in the last 10 years. But so if you fall within that window, it's possible, but I don't know if we go back and say, well, you, for example, you're applying for benefits today, but you've been disabled or think you've been disabled since, let's say, 2019. I'm not sure how I'm not quite sure how we would look at that. And that's what I want to find out to give the individual the correct information.
and so if the
Great.
questioner would like to share their specific circumstances, we'd be happy to pass that on.
Right. And again, with a question like that, I'll be happy to provide a response, but also I encourage you to call your local field office again and talk through that situation so you know exactly what's going on for your specific situation.
all right, and another question we have is, so we have somebody who has not worked for 10 years and they're wondering if they could be eligible to apply for SSDI.
Based on the recent work tests, no. So but they will be eligible to apply for SSDI at that point. If they haven't worked for 10 years, then they don't meet the recent work test at all.
And so in other words, they might be eligible for SSDI. Is that
No, SSI.
Well, I think the question was for SSDI.
Right. So they would not be eligible for that if they haven't worked in 10 years. Remember, you have to have at least 20 credits or worked 5 out of the last 10 years to be considered covered for SSI. I'm sorry, for SSDI, rather, I'm sorry.
It does get complicated.
It does. But the person will be eligible to sign up for SSI if they meet that disability criteria.
So we have an individual who is age 73. They are receiving Social Security retirement and also VA benefits, and they're asking about SSDI. So can you tell us about SSDI and how it converts to retirement?
I'm sorry, say that SS what again?
So we have somebody who is eligible for Social Security retirement benefits and receiving retirement benefits, and they're asking, would they be eligible to apply for SSDI?
Again, how long ago did you stop working? If you become eligible, they would just convert that to retirement benefits anyway. So I do not believe you may be eligible depending on how much you get in retirement to qualify for SSI, not SSDI.
Okay, thank you for that. We have somebody who is a retiree who was diagnosed with ALS in 2018. They're 100% disabled from the VA, and they're asking if they should apply for SSDI to try to increase their current Social Security retirement income.
So they're already collecting Social Security retirement?
Correct.
again, I believe if they haven't worked 5 out of the last 10 years, they would not be eligible for SSDI. However, or they may not be eligible for SSI either because of the income, the resource limit. So they may not be eligible for either one of those benefits at this point. But again,
Okay.
I would say call the office and find out. I'm basing this on like the general knowledge that I have of the programs. And so I would say call to find out, but I don't believe they would be eligible for any of our benefits unless their retirement income amount is extremely low. Because remember,
Okay.
SSI is a resource dependent program and it's a needs-based program.
So this, due to time, is going to be our last question that we're going to be able to get to today. So we have an individual who applied for SSDI and was denied. They have VA disability compensation, have not worked since 2011. Their VA benefits are now 100% permanent in total. And they're asking, is there any chance of receiving SSDI at this point? So it sounds like they tried SSDI and then was denied. Their situation has changed. Could SSDI be a possibility now?
Certainly, if they meet the recent work test, the 5 out of the last 10 years thing, and if their condition has worsened, again, remember, SSA's disability definition is a lot different than VA's definition. It's a lot more maybe strict or stringent is maybe not the right word, but it's just different. And so again, I've met veterans who are 100% permanent in total that do not qualify for our disability benefits on either side because they don't meet the criteria in terms of work, ability to work, and things like that. So there are other factors. The VA rating doesn't guarantee Social Security benefits at all. But I would recommend the person, if the things have changed, if the condition has gotten worse, try again.
Okay, great. So we did have one final request, ML. Can you remind us of the place to go and sign up for your Social Security account so that you can learn more about your benefits?
It is www.ssa.gov/my-account.
And that's just MYACCOUNT, is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
And this account gives you access to your Social Security information, your Social Security record. You can view your statement on this account, your annual statement that we used to send out every year to people. You can review that. We have a retirement calculator behind the account. If you need to ask for a replacement Social Security card, you can do that. If you need a benefit verification letter, you can get it off of this account. There are a multitude of things. You can estimate your future benefits. If you do apply for disability benefits, you can check the status and see where it's at using this account in our process. And it'll give you kind of like an estimate of how long it may take to finish your application. So a lot of benefits to having an account like this. And then once you start receiving benefits in any form, such as retirement disability or disability benefits, you are able to, if you move, change your address so that we know where you are. If you switch banks, you can go in there and change your direct deposit information. So a wide range of things you can do with this account.
Well, thank you, ML. And as a reminder, we did record today's presentation and it will be available for you to watch later. And then we have Susan's information for any questions that were not addressed. Please feel free to reach out to her. And just for our final closing remarks, I will turn it over to Susan.
Thank you, Heather. And thank you for being such a wonderful question moderator and tech support today. And I want to thank ML Jordan for spending time with us today and for his subject matter expertise in this and all the information he has conveyed to us. about Social Security disability insurance and the whole Social Security program. As we know, Social Security celebrates its 81st birthday on August 14. So everyone blow out a candle for the system. And again, thank you to you all for being here. And if we can provide any additional information, don't hesitate to contact us. Take care.